It's rumored the boss is henpecked. He always uses going home to be with his wife as an excuse to skip after work gatherings. At the celebration dinner, a colleague gossiped, "Louis doesn't have to go home to his wife tonight?" The man tilted his chin in my direction. "Not tonight, my wife is right here." As I neared the company building, I realized I had brought the wrong work ID. I looked at the word CEO Louis on the card, wanting to cry. Braving the cold wind, I called the man himself. A clear, mellow male voice quickly answered, "Yes?" I found it hard to say, "Did you happen to bring my ID card?" The man chuckled softly. Then came his affirmative reply, "Yes." I breathed a sigh of relief and quickly said, "Then I'll wait for you downstairs, and we can swap." "No need," Louis said, "it's so cold, you go on up. I'll clock you in today." I hesitated, "Is that okay?" "What's not okay about it?" After a few seconds of standoff, I finally relented, "All right, then we'll swap when we get to the office." He was about to hang up. I called out to him again, "Do you need me to clock you in?" "I don't need to." He answered that first, then added, "Besides, I have a name. If you don't like calling me by my name, you can use other terms of endearment for me." The word honey was on the tip of my tongue. My cheeks flushed, and I hastily hung up the phone. CEO Louis is my husband. This fact, which sounds incredible, is even more taboo in a place like the company building. I carefully put away his ID card and took the elevator to the 17th floor. I thought the ID card incident was over. But as colleagues trickled into the office, they were all chattering excitedly about something. My desk mate, Julia, is my closest colleague. I asked her about it, and she gestured wildly with excitement. "Someone saw Louis clocking in downstairs at the company today." I was stunned. She continued, "A big shot like him doesn't need to clock in at a fixed time, so everyone's guessing he was clocking in for his wife." I tried to argue, how did they guess it was his wife? She mysteriously beckoned me closer. I leaned in, and she whispered, "Actually, everyone's been secretly saying that Louis's wife works in our company." My fingertips gripping the armrest turned white. My heart felt like it was in my throat. I tried to keep my voice steady as I looked at her. "Really?" "Who knows," she shrugged. "But everyone's saying it." After revealing the huge secret, she returned to her normal volume and said with a laugh, "Now Louis has really earned the title of a henpecked husband. Waking up early to clock in for his wife, who's he trying to make laugh to death?" I forced a couple of dry laughs, but I couldn't bring myself to genuinely smile. Louis being henpecked was the most absurd rumor I had ever heard. I don't even know how it started. It seemed to have begun one day when Louis used going home to be with his wife as an excuse to decline a company gathering, and his reputation for being afraid of his wife spread from there. Perhaps it was because he was too cold, serious, and aloof at the company that when this rumor spread, not a single person chose to doubt it, and everyone firmly believed it. It was as if this version of Louis had a weakness, making him seem more human. Only I, his wife, knew how absurd and laughable this rumor was. How could Louis possibly be afraid of me? How could he be coming home to spend time with me? He clearly just didn't want to attend the gathering, so he used me as an excuse. Just like when he didn't want an arranged marriage and hastily found me to get married. From beginning to end, I was just his shield. The ID badge clock-in incident added a little spice to the dull work life. Some colleagues were already begging the HR assistant to check the employee clock-in records for that time period to narrow down the list of candidates for the CEO's wife. Just as I was on pins and needles, the culprit himself sent a message. "Where should we exchange?" In the midst of this storm, I wouldn't dare meet him secretly. I quickly sent him a screenshot of the group chat discussion about checking clock-in records, worriedly asking, "Will they find out?" "Louis, unless he doesn't want his job anymore." Such a cold, hard tone. Such a strong sense of security. I instantly stopped worrying and replied to his previous message, "Let's not exchange for now, we can talk about it when we get home." After all, the number of times I needed to use my ID card during work hours was few and far between. Besides clocking in and out and using it in the cafeteria, this thing had no other use for me. But perhaps, the more you don't want something to happen, the more likely it is to occur. Halfway through the workday, the manager suddenly called me into his office. "Is the speech draft ready for later?" It was for the department's internal commendation meeting, and as an outstanding employee, I was supposed to give a short speech. I nodded and showed him the speech draft I had prepared beforehand. He read it carefully, then looked at me. "Originally, there was no need to check it, but I heard that Louis will be attending this department meeting, so we need to prepare in advance." I was stunned. "Louis is attending too?" "Yes." He looked at me again. "Remember to wear your ID card when you go on stage later to present our department's good image." For a moment, I really didn't know what to say. Meeting the manager's probing gaze, I chuckled awkwardly. "Do I have to wear it?" "What? You didn't bring it?" "I brought it, but not entirely." The manager sighed, took off the ID card from his neck and handed it to me, saying seriously, "Just for show, don't let it happen again." I nodded quickly and scurried out of his office like a lackey. Louis indeed showed up for the 10 o'clock department meeting. I wore the manager's ID card around my neck, carefully avoiding even a glance in Louis's direction. But he seemed to be just observing routinely. He propped his chin on one hand throughout, without saying a word. Soon it was my turn to go on stage. I mentally reviewed my notes, took the microphone, and delivered the prepared speech. Suddenly, I saw Louis raise his phone. As if he was filming something. The camera was aimed at me. He zoomed in and in. I don't know what he was focusing on. A strange scene occurred. Following Louis, other colleagues also started taking out their phones and filming me. I took a deep breath. Under immense pressure and countless lenses, I finished the short speech. Thunderous applause. As I walked off stage, the first thing I did was grab my phone. Louis had indeed sent a message. A high-definition close-up photo of the manager's ID card on my chest, accompanied by his questioning tone. "Why isn't it my ID card?" I almost rolled my eyes into the back of my head. Blatantly wear his ID card on stage? Do I even want to work in this company anymore? I replied with 6 dots. Louis tactfully stopped sending messages. The department commendation meeting thus ended without any major incidents. Back in the office, colleagues gathered around my desk, chattering about treating them to a meal. I agreed to each one. Suddenly, I heard someone say, "Nancy, can I borrow your nail clippers?" I nodded. While fumbling for my keychain in my bag, I responded to other colleagues. My fingertips touched the cold keys. I took them out, about to hand them over. Who knew the key ring got tangled with a blue lanyard, pulling out Louis's ID card that I had hidden in my bag. With a soft thud, Louis's ID card fell to the ground in full view of everyone. It landed face up, revealing Louis's ID photo and name. Someone with sharp eyes spotted it and asked, "Why is Louis's ID card here?" This instantly drew everyone's attention. Oh my God, it really is Louis's. It seems like it fell out of Nancy's bag. Everyone looked at the ID card on the floor, then at me. Their faces were a mixture of wanting to say something but not being able to. The colleague who asked to borrow my nail clippers was the first to pick up the ID card from the floor, handed it to me, and said jokingly, "Nancy, you're not the CEO's wife, are you?" I flinched, just about to deny it. The manager's loud voice cut through the tense atmosphere. "Why is everyone gathered here? Don't you have other work to do?" Everyone scattered. I looked towards the source of the voice. Several department heads were slowly walking over with Louis. His ID card in my palm felt like it was burning. I thought, I can't let my colleagues misunderstand like this. I have to explain. Even if it's a fabricated story. Just as I was about to speak, Louis had already walked to my desk with the leaders. He stopped and looked at me. "Did you send me a message saying you found my ID card?" I was stunned for a second. Then quickly nodded, "Yes, yes." I offered it with both hands. He took it lightly and chuckled, "Still an outstanding employee, huh?" Well done. My ears inexplicably burned. The manager followed Lewis's words and started praising me, with things like being hardworking, diligent, and so on. After all the leaders left, my anxious heart finally settled. Julia, from the next desk, leaned over, her heart still racing. You scared me to death just now. I thought you and Lewis were having an affair. I didn't dare say I was almost scared to death too. I feigned displeasure and looked at her. Do you think that's possible? She looked me up and down thoughtfully, just looking at faces. You two are quite compatible. But Lewis already has a wife. I nodded. He is indeed a married man. I really want to know who his wife is. Julia gossiped. She seems very low-key. If I were the CEO's wife, I'd want to carve those words on my forehead for the whole world to see. I was inexplicably amused by her. She picked up her phone and shared the latest gossip with me. Everyone in the group chat is guessing who the CEO's wife is. Emily from the project team has a lot of support. I let out a questioning sound. She explained, Emily is a rich heiress working at the grassroots level. I heard their families are well matched, and their parents have even had dinner together. I smiled and nodded. She added, but the one with the most support is still Chelsea. Proximity breeds affection, after all. Who else but her works in the CEO's office? I agreed, indeed. And now you've been added to the list. She wrapped her arm around my shoulder tightly, teasing with a smile. Who told you to drop Lewis's ID card from your bag? Some people are even saying you two spent the night together. The ID badge incident served as a wake-up call for me. Originally, I was confident that the gossip-mongers wouldn't suspect me. But a small accident almost led to a disaster, so I decided to be more vigilant from now on. When Lewis got home, I went up to him and, deliberately in front of him, separated his and my work IDs, which he had just neatly placed together, and said, "From now on, keep yours and mine separate." He raised an eyebrow. And the keys too. I singled out his keys and put them far away. It would be terrible if we took the wrong ones. Don't put your keys with mine. He lowered his gaze and looked at me. Anything else? Is the water cup in your office still that couple's set? How about we change it? I'll pay for it, get you a better one. The couple's water cups were a free gift when I bought a thermos. Not a particularly good brand, and certainly not up to Lewis's status, but he still used them. Right there in his office. If someone ever found out that his cup and mine were a couple set, I'd be completely done for. Then should we tear the marriage certificate and keep half each? What? He sighed. Nancy, get it straight, we're already married. I pursed my lips. Lewis's unquestionable aura applied to any occasion, including now. I mustered the courage to argue with him. Well, we agreed back then that marriage wouldn't interfere with my normal life. He frowned at me. I said weakly, being the CEO's wife is interfering with my normal life. All right, he conceded a step. Then how long do you plan to hide it? I hadn't thought it through. I just wanted to hide it. A year? 2 years? Lewis said, we can't hide it forever, can we? I didn't dare say it to his face. I don't think he and I can be together forever. I argued in a small voice. Why does everyone have to know? Because we are husband and wife, legally. Lewis's eyes looked at me. I don't want to sneak around in the company anymore. I don't want to be ashamed by you like trash. I don't want to not even have the right to speak up when other people are pursuing you. He took a deep breath and said softly, are these reasons enough? His reasons were sufficient, but I still didn't want to compromise. The conversation ended unhappily. At night, lying in my bedroom, I was still thinking about Lewis's dejected look when he turned away. Should this be considered a Cold War? But I still don't want to go public. It's been 2 months since we got married, and we still sleep in separate rooms. Except for a few nights spent at the old house, we've never shared a bed. A marriage devoid of any emotion, purely for mutual benefit. How could I dare to claim the title of CEO's wife? I don't even know when I'll be divorced. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. At this hour, only Louis could be knocking on my door. I cleared my throat. Is something wrong? Yes. Just a simple affirmation, nothing else. I had no choice but to get out of bed and open the door for him. The moment the door opened, I was thoroughly startled. Louis was actually holding a pillow. He had probably just showered, a light, pleasant scent of body wash wafting from him. His hair was freshly washed, fluffy and soft. His eyes were innocent and harmless, but the words he spoke made no sense to me. I'm here to sleep with you. I watched, dumbfounded, as he entered the room. He carefully placed the pillow he was holding, lifted the covers, and lay down, his hands resting neatly on his stomach, quiet and well-behaved. I leaned against the door, still bewildered. What do you mean? It means fulfilling our marital duties, wife. I suspect Louis has gone mad. Or maybe I'm the one who's mad, otherwise how could I be hearing him talk nonsense late at night? I looked at him in alarm. What's gotten into you? Nothing. The person lying on my bed let out a soft sigh. I just feel that, since we're married anyway, and neither of us intends to divorce, we can't keep going on like this. I slowly processed the meaning of his words. So, it's about consummating the marriage? Louis's subsequent actions confirmed my suspicion. He slowly sat up straight, lowered his head, and began to unbutton his pajamas with his long, slender, fair fingers. One by one, his movements were swift and neat. Almost in the blink of an eye, I saw his bare, flushed upper body. He was clearly blushing. Yet, with lightning speed, he started to take off his pajama pants. I was shocked and rushed forward, covering him with the thin blanket. You, don't be impulsive. Louis looked at me with a pair of clear eyes. Is it because we haven't done what married couples do that you don't feel like we're married? I avoided his eyes and managed to get the words out with difficulty. I know we're already married. Then what are you afraid of? I pursed my lips tightly. He saw my hesitation and said again, let's just do it, otherwise you'll always treat me like a roommate. Under the cover of the thin blanket, he rustled as he took off his pants. I turned my head away, not looking at him. My fingers, clutching the corner of the blanket, were trembling. Suddenly, his phone rang in the quiet room. As if granted salvation, I quickly said, "Phone, you have a call." Not answering. "Just answer it," I urged, staring at the screen. "It's Zach." "What if it's something urgent?" He sighed. I knew this meant he agreed, so I quickly answered the call and held it to his ear. This distance was really too close. I could even hear Zach's voice on the other end of the line. "Come out for drinks." "No time." "Wife won't let you?" Zach sounded dissatisfied. "This is where I have to say a few words to you, buddy. You need to assert your husbandly authority. How can you be controlled by your wife all the time? Show some of that domineering spirit you have." Louis said nonchalantly, "Are you jealous that I have a wife to control me?" Zach hung up the phone immediately after hearing that. Silence returned to my ears. "The call is over, so next." I interrupted him. "I didn't say you couldn't go drinking. And about the dinner parties," I reasoned with him, "every time you don't want to go to a dinner, you use me as an excuse, saying things like you have to go home and accompany your wife. Now everyone in the company says you're henpecked." I defended myself, but I'm clearly not. "I don't restrict you, you're very free." Louis looked up at me. "Nancy, are you really stupid or just pretending to be?" "Huh?" His eyes remained fixed on me. In that instant, I could even see the hesitation and struggle in his eyes. After a long pause, he relented and said, "Forget it." When Louis said forget it, he meant it. He didn't dwell on the roommate issue anymore, nor did he talk about having a conjugal life. He just put on his clothes and walked out of my room. We still slept in separate rooms that night. Logically, I should have been relieved. But for some reason, perhaps because Louis's words were cut short, I felt a bit disappointed. The blanket was imbued with his scent, and I unconsciously thought of him. My marriage to him was a perfect match. At that time, I was suffering from the pressure to get married and was forced by my parents to meet a blind date at a coffee shop. The gentleman was well-traveled and very talkative. He kept describing how large his company was and how broad its prospects were, occasionally showing me his wristwatch and saying with an air of novelty, "Patek Philippe Nautilus, isn't it beautiful?" I forced a smile. I barely managed to get through the blind date. After he left, I stayed where I was, uncharacteristically dejected, thinking. The blind date my parents praised so much, am I going to spend the rest of my life with someone like him? Before I could figure it out, someone else sat down across from me. It was Louis. He opened his mouth and asked, "Want to marry me?" I looked at him, somewhat bewildered. He informed me solemnly, "I have many Patek Philippe's, more beautiful and more expensive than his. I can give them all to you." I was inexplicably amused by this sentence. The rest followed logically. He didn't want to be forced into an arranged marriage, and I didn't want to be pressured into getting married, so we got our marriage certificate and became husband and wife. Married life was better than I expected. Louis was the perfect marriage partner, except for the fact that he was my company's boss. I didn't really want my colleagues to know about my relationship with him. Perhaps, as Louis said, we were more like roommates, so I didn't have a real sense of being married. I tossed and turned all night. When I opened my eyes the next day, my head was still groggy. I went through the motions of dressing and washing up. When I reached the entryway and saw the separately placed ID cards and keychains, I woke up completely. His and mine, placed far apart. Like a galaxy between them. As if done intentionally. I looked back at Louis's bedroom. The door was tightly closed. For some reason, I felt a little uneasy. But this was clearly what I had asked for. I sighed, grabbed my things, and walked out. This complicated emotion lasted until noon. Julia and I were eating in the cafeteria when 2 bottles of yogurt suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Beside us was a smiling Chris, who eagerly introduced, "This flavor is really delicious, you guys should try it too." Julia glanced at me and quickened him to sit down. What a coincidence. As Chris sat down next to me, I saw Louis walking in from the main entrance. His gaze swept past me, lingering for only a second before moving away. I inexplicably remembered him saying, "I don't want to not even have the right to speak when other people are pursuing you." I spoke, almost flustered. "Thank you for your kindness, but I already have a boyfriend." Julia looked astonished. "What? When did you get a boyfriend?" "I'll tell you later." After discouraging Chris and satisfying Julia's curiosity, I stared blankly at Louis's chat window on my phone. Should I explain? But Louis was very strange today. Usually, he would send me messages, not important ones, just idle chat like "What did you have for lunch?" Or "Do you have to work overtime today?" But today he didn't. No concern, no questions. I mustered my courage and typed, "I rejected him." He replied instantly, but his tone was cold, "Okay." Just as I was hesitating whether to say more, my phone suddenly rang. The caller ID showed Zach. I wondered why he would call me and quickly went to an empty stairwell to answer. "Hello? Sis-in-law, want to have dinner with us tonight?" "Huh?" I hesitated. "Will Louis be there?" "If you go, he'll definitely go," Zach said. "This guy is completely your shadow now. Wherever you are, he is. I don't even need to ask." I had no idea how to respond to that. Zach said with a laugh, "So it's settled for tonight then?" "Okay." After hanging up, I returned to my chat with Louis, only to find he had already sent me quite a few messages. "How did you reject him? Is it inconvenient to say? What about the others, did you reject them too? Nancy, talk to me." I quickly dialed his number. Louis answered instantly, but didn't say anything. I panted slightly. "Zach just called, said we're having dinner together tonight." "When did he get your number?" "At the last gathering." "Fine," he said, "but you should have less contact with him in the future." I blinked. He asked, "Can't you do that?" I was inexplicably annoyed. "You don't act like a henpecked husband at all." He clearly controls me more. Louis cleared his throat. Then I won't control you anymore. After a short silence, he asked again about the incident in the cafeteria at noon. I could only tell him everything in detail. It wasn't until I heard faint footsteps in the stairwell that I realized this call had lasted almost 20 minutes. I quickly said, I have to go back to the office. Louis stopped me, his tone a bit strange. Where were you when you called me? Stairwell. He let out an inexplicable laugh, his voice full of teasing. Nancy, do you like having secret affairs with me? The impact of the word secret affair was too great. So much so that when I got into Louis's car that evening, I still felt a little embarrassed to look at him. The driver in the front seat enthusiastically introduced, Ma'am, there's yogurt in the mini fridge, Louis specially prepared it for you. Chatterbox. Louis turned his head to look out the window, his ears flushed red. I suspiciously opened the car's mini fridge and fell silent when I saw it filled with the same yogurt Chris had. I took out a bottle, took 2 sips, and still wanted to pick a fight. Do you have to be so childish? Louis said, I bought them for myself to drink. He misunderstood. Oh. I sipped my yogurt until we reached the restaurant, and entered the private room one after the other with Louis. Louis didn't have many friends, only 3 close ones. Perhaps because their relationship was too good, as soon as he sat down, he was immediately besieged by the 3 of them. It's really hard to get our Louis out for dinner nowadays. One minute it's no time, the next it's very busy. Is this purely not taking us brothers seriously? So what if you have a wife? You choose women over your friends. Were we like this when we were dating? I felt a little embarrassed after hearing this. But the person involved showed no shame. Louis calmly drank his water. I'm a family man now, I can't chat with you single guys. Hey, the 3 protested in unison. Seeing Louis unmoved, they turned their attention to me. Sis-in-law, look at him. What about me? Louis defended himself. I'm a married man now, of course I have to be a responsible husband. How can I go out fooling around with you guys all day? He's going to show off his wife again. I'm really fed up, can you have some shame? How come I never noticed this side of you before? Seeing the crowd getting agitated, I quickly tried to smooth things over. He'll go with you guys in the future, don't worry. Louis said faintly, not going. The dinner table instantly became livelier. As I ate, I listened to them bicker, gradually understanding. These guys were clearly praising Louis in front of me for being a family man who loves his wife. I actually thought they were genuinely bothered at first. After a satisfying meal, I was idly playing with the charm on my bag when Louis suddenly leaned over. Are you bored? I immediately retracted my hand. It's okay. He smiled. If you're bored, we can go back. We've talked enough for today. I hesitated and nodded. Okay. Louis immediately contacted the driver. I sipped the last bit of tea in my cup and suddenly met Zach's eyes across the table. He slightly tilted his chin, signaling me to look at my phone. I suspiciously unlocked my phone screen. We were close enough to talk face to face, yet he actually sent me a message. Sis-in-law, let me tell you a secret. He has a crush on you. Don't you dare say I told you. Shoo. I looked up in astonishment. Zach smiled and pointed at Louis. I followed his gaze. Louis turned to look at me, his tone gentle. The driver is here, shall we go now? I responded slowly, go. On the way back, I didn't say a word. Mainly because I was mulling over what Zach had just said. But Louis seemed to have misunderstood. I heard him explain with a hint of apology, they're a bit rowdy in private, but they're all good people. If you don't like these kinds of occasions, next time. I interrupted him, I don't dislike it. Meeting Louis's clear gaze, I smiled and said, they're very nice, I like them a lot. If possible, invite me next time too. Louis breathed a sigh of relief, okay. A moment later, he added, there's no need to like them too much, just treat them as friends, ordinary friends. I was genuinely amused by him. I looked at him expectantly. Louis looked back at me with slight hesitation. What's wrong? I shook my head. It just suddenly felt like I had been enlightened. I think I've really overlooked a lot these past 2 months. Actually, many of Louis's actions showed his affection, but I stubbornly believed he was just fulfilling his duties as a husband. No wonder he asked me back then if I was really stupid or just pretending. Back home, Louis bent down to hand me my house slippers. I lowered my head, about to change, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Louis's mom. I looked at him nervously. It's your auntie calling. Louis walked to my side, his voice calm. Answer it. I pressed the speakerphone button. Louis's mom's charming voice came from the other end. Nancy, are you free to come over for dinner this Saturday? I glanced at Louis again. He nodded, so I agreed. Mom will tell the kitchen to prepare your favorite dishes right away. I guarantee you'll eat happily. Thank you, Mom. Louis looked down at me. My cheeks burned, and I pretended to focus intently on my phone. The call wasn't over. Louis's mom clearly had more to say. After a short silence, she finally spoke. I heard there have been some rumors in the company recently, about Emily. Auntie wants to explain it to you. I subconsciously thought of Emily from the project department. At that time, his father and Emily's father did indeed have dinner together, but it definitely wasn't to discuss an arranged marriage for these 2 kids. Louis's mom said with a smile, our family never thought of letting Louis have an arranged marriage, and he doesn't even know Emily. I don't know how it turned into this rumor. Don't misunderstand him. I was inexplicably flustered. No, I didn't misunderstand him. How would I dare? After a few more words, the call ended. I breathed a sigh of relief, only to find Louis still tense. I suddenly realized. The lie this person told back then to get married had just been ruthlessly exposed by his aunt. The arranged marriage, so I misunderstood. Louis was explaining to me. I thought they were going to force me into marriage back then. I quietly watched him act. But it's too late to say these things now. After all, we're already married. He looked at me cautiously. Right? I asked knowingly, is marrying me better than an arranged marriage? Of course. Why? Louis didn't say anything. I really couldn't stand him pretending anymore and took a step closer. At this moment, I was extremely close to him. I could even see the panic in his eyes. I poked his chest with my finger. Louis, stop pretending. His voice wavered slightly at the end. I looked up into his eyes. You like me? The person before me gasped heavily. Like someone on the verge of suffocation finally getting fresh air, he breathed rapidly. I could even hear his heart pounding. I gently reminded him, speak. Louis stood straight, his back pressed against the wall. How did you know? I didn't want to betray Zach, so I said, I just sensed it. He became even more nervous. So what do you think? About me liking you, your thoughts? No thoughts, I said, feigning composure. Anyway, we're already married. Isn't it better to have a husband who likes me? Louis nodded. I pressed him again. Since you like me, why didn't you say so? Louis mimicked my way of speaking. No need to say it. Anyway, we're already married. Is confessing still important? I couldn't help but expose him. I'm talking about before marriage. Louis stared at me blankly. How did you know I liked you before we got married? His mind worked exceptionally fast at this moment, guessing the answer in a second. Zach told you? He was both annoyed and regretful. I knew I shouldn't have let you get too close to him. That guy has never been able to keep a secret since he was a kid. Seeing him about to lose it, I quickly held him down. Let's talk about us first. Louis took a deep breath and simply admitted, it's true, I liked you before. When you were in college, I saw you once, Louis said. I went with Zach to your school's New Year's Eve party, and you were sitting in front of me. It was love at first sight, he said. And then? No then, he pursed his lips and smiled. I needed to be abroad most of the time back then. The time and place weren't right, how could I dare to approach you casually? Zach probably felt sorry for me and would occasionally send me updates about you. He spoke with genuine sincerity. You really are outstanding. So you proposed to me after you came back to the country? Not that quickly. He said with a smile. I originally wanted to approach you slowly, but then I accidentally heard you say you didn't like me. How could that be? I was surprised. At that time, Louis was an unattainable existence for me. The original words were like this. Louis recounted to me, Louis is handsome, but he's cold. Can you really stand a boyfriend like that? He's like an ice sculpture. I definitely can't. I remembered everything. This was a conversation I had with Julia back then. I looked at him with some guilt. Louis smiled. At that time, I thought, forget it. I didn't dare to bother you again, until I met you again at the coffee shop. I remembered that absurd blind date. I had no other intentions, Louis said. I just felt that I could do better than him. Even if you don't like me, I can be a better husband than him, he said. I looked at Louis, whose cheeks were flushed red at this moment, his lips even trembling slightly. An inexplicable sourness welled up in my heart. I looked at him. What if I never found out? Then let it be undiscovered. He slowly exhaled. You're already my wife, what more could I ask for? I stared at him suspiciously. He was defeated again. All right, I admit, I'm very dissatisfied. He said, I gradually couldn't stand the way other men looked at you. I didn't like seeing you avoid me like the plague. I wanted everyone to know we were a couple. I wanted the whole world to know you care about me. So that's why you acted like that outside? Yes. He actually admitted it directly. I don't know why I'd be like this. Clearly you don't care about me, yet I'm still like a delusional patient, impatiently wanting to receive everyone's envious gazes. He said, even business partners know. If he says, your wife loves you so much, negotiations go smoother. I couldn't help but call his name softly, Louis. He seemed to wake up from a dream and smiled at me. Sorry, did I scare you? I shook my head. I was just sighing. How could he, at this moment, have any of his usual cold and arrogant demeanor? Tall, yet fragile. I inexplicably wanted to hug him. My feet moved slightly, but he beat me to it and pulled me into his arms. His embrace was warm and tight. I couldn't see his expression, but I could hear his voice, humbled to the extreme. Nancy, like me, please? His voice resonated in my ear, as he begged again and again. Wife, please, like me. Like me, like me, like me. Didn't sleep well. The moment I closed my eyes, my mind was filled with Louis's voice begging me to like him. I shamefully discovered I was happy. Clearly, I don't like him, yet I was still happy because he likes me. I feel like I'm going crazy. But Louis was clearly crazier. The next morning, as soon as I picked up my phone, the screen was filled with unread messages from him. The time spanned from when we each went back to our rooms last night until just now. Did I scare you? I didn't mean anything else. It's okay if you don't like me, we can still be a loveless roommate couple. Of course, it would be even better if you could like me a little. Sorry, I won't bother you anymore. You're not thinking of divorce, are you? I promise my affection won't disturb you. Please don't divorce. Those words last night, can we pretend I never said them? Thinking about it carefully, there's nothing about me worth your liking, so I won't make things difficult for you. Is being handsome considered a merit? I also have a lot of money, I can give it all to you. Sorry, I really won't bother you anymore. Good night. One last question, what type of man do you like? Breakfast is on the table, remember to drink your milk. I'm heading to the company first. It was only 8 o'clock, far from Louis's usual departure time for work. It seemed he wanted to avoid me. I was truly amused by him. He was the one who wanted me to like him, and now he's the one avoiding me. After breakfast, I arrived at the company. Julia leaned over with a surprised look. Did you not bring a formal dress? I blinked. It's the celebration dinner tonight. Her face was full of "you're letting me down" disappointment. I see everyone else is prepared, some even ordered their dresses a month in advance. I had indeed forgotten. I hurriedly tried to make excuses. It's not like it's mandatory to wear one, right? If not today, then when? She pinched my cheek disapprovingly. I hate it when beautiful women like you couldn't care less about these things. I could only offer an apologetic smile. Louis, however, was more attentive than I was. After a few hours of silence, he sent me a message. I ordered a dress for you. It's not the same style as mine, you can wear it without worry. I raised an eyebrow. Where is it? Louis, I'll bring it to you now. How about I leave it in the stairwell where you called me last time? You can pick it up in 10 minutes. Why does this feel like an undercover rendezvous? So I ignored Louis's arrangement and waited for him in the stairwell beforehand. The waiting time dragged on. Originally, I didn't think much of it, until the word secret affair suddenly popped into my head, and I realized this scene was perfectly fitting. I inexplicably started to feel uncomfortable. This feeling of unease reached its peak when I saw Louis coming downstairs with a paper bag. I looked at him, he looked at me. Neither of us spoke. Aren't you going to give it to me? I prompted him. Only then did he seem to snap out of it and hand me the paper bag. A long, dark black dress, with a circle of fine diamonds at the chest, the fabric smooth, clearly expensive. I stared at him. How did you know my size? Louis was too embarrassed to look at me and turned his head away. When we were choosing wedding dresses, I glanced at it. I didn't mean to remember, I just have a photographic memory. Thank you. I looked up at him and noticed the blush on Louis's face had spread to his neck. I couldn't help but laugh. Why are you so embarrassed? He was silent for a moment, then finally spoke. It feels like a secret affair, quite exciting. I couldn't help but shoot him a sidelong glance and deliberately said, well then, Louis, you must be careful not to let your wife find out. At this moment, the expression on Louis's face was utterly foolish. I suppressed a laugh, ignored him, and pushed the door open to leave. Before the celebration dinner began, Julia suddenly handed me her phone. Nancy, look at this, what is this? I looked up, and my heart instantly sank. It was a picture of me and Louis exchanging something in the stairwell. Someone had actually taken a photo. Julia's face was full of anxiety. Everyone in the group chat is saying you and Louis are having an affair. What do we do now? I clicked on the group chat. It was an anonymous company group. Perhaps because it was anonymous, the comments were even more unrestrained, and the group was already flooded with rumors. I knew she was up to something since the ID card incident. Deliberately keeping Louis's ID card in her bag, isn't that just showing off? Is this a power play? A mistress trying to take over? Hee, who knows how she got that outstanding employee award? I knew her dress tonight looked so beautiful, turns out Louis bought it. Seducing Louis on one hand, and still stringing along other male colleagues in the company on the other, absolutely disgusting. Wait, what if she is Louis's wife? Are you kidding me? Do you even believe that yourself? Louis's wife being in the company is just speculation, but her ambiguous relationship with Louis is already a solid fact. She was wearing the manager's ID card on stage before. How messy must her private life be? I'm really fed up. I actually thought she was beautiful and kind-hearted. I pursed my lips and handed the phone back to Julia. Thank you, I understand. Nancy, aren't you going to clarify? How do I clarify? I let out a rare laugh. The evidence is all there. The person married to Louis is me. Julia's jaw dropped in astonishment. After a long, long time, she finally managed to utter, "Holy crap." I patted her hand reassuringly. Let's talk after the celebration dinner. But some people were destined not to wait until the end of the celebration dinner. As more and more people filled the banquet hall, more and more gazes, intentional or unintentional, fell on me. This meant that the group chat incident was spreading even more widely. I sighed and went to the cold buffet to get a small cake to fill my stomach. A cold voice came from my ear. Are all mistresses this thick-skinned? How can you act like nothing happened after such a big incident? It was Chelsea from the CEO's office. It dawned on me, you took the photo? No, she denied it flatly, then said, I'm just curious, how did you manage to hook up with Louis? You're so curious, do you want to hook up with him too? She choked, her beautiful face instantly becoming arrogant. Do you think you can act unscrupulously just because you have Louis backing you up? He might just be playing around with you, she said. Mrs. Booth will be here tonight, then you'll know how miserable it is to be a mistress. Is that so? I smiled calmly, then I'll wait and see. As I was finishing my second piece of cake, the male lead of the scandal, Louis, finally made his appearance. He usually attracted a lot of attention, but today he was the center of everyone's gaze. The eyes of the gossip-mongers frequently darted between him and me. But Louis acted as if he didn't notice. He didn't even glance in my direction. Some people saw this as him trying to avoid suspicion, and their gazes towards me became even more contemptuous. I slowly swallowed the small cake in my mouth and suddenly heard someone with a penchant for stirring up trouble ask him, it's a celebration dinner today, does Louis have to go home early to accompany his wife? In the noisy banquet hall, Louis's voice was exceptionally clear. Not today, my wife is right here. Huh? Madam is also present? That person's gaze swept across the room, where? Where? I was so nervous I forgot to chew. I saw the spirited man smile and tilt his chin in my direction. Are you full? Come here. Meeting everyone's gaze, I braced myself and walked to his side. At this moment, I could almost hear the gasps of the people around me. The banquet hall was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Louis put his arm around my waist tightly and faced the crowd. Let me introduce everyone, my wife, Nancy. For the rest of the time, I was forced to stay by Louis's side. Rumors spread quickly, but clarifications spread even faster. All it took was one sentence from Louis, and all the lies fell apart. I could even see the color drain from Chelsea's face in an instant. For some reason, I felt a sense of satisfaction. Julia was frantically sending me messages. Do you know how awful Chelsea looks? I was shot secretly, I'll send it to you. Does this person really think she's the CEO's wife just because she's usually the most talked about candidate? This is great. This is great. And Louis is so handsome. Nancy, I'm so jealous you found such a husband. Louis leaned close to my ear and whispered, it was an emergency, don't blame me. About going public, he said, I'll deal with the people who spread the rumors, but the best way to clarify rumors is indeed to go public. It's okay, I said with a smile. It seems that the moment I took the initiative to wait for Louis in the stairwell, I was already prepared to go public. I praised him, you were very handsome just now. Unexpectedly, he was still dissatisfied, only just now handsome. The list of rumor mongers was sent to Louis's phone after the celebration dinner. He didn't show me who was on the list, just told me he would deal with them one by one. I nodded, busy replying to messages from colleagues on my phone. He was surprised, so many? I could only show him the screen full of little red dots. Even colleagues I've added as contacts but never chatted with have started liking my social media posts from a year ago. Louis took my phone, stop replying. Isn't that a bit rude? Who would dare say anything to you? My phone was confiscated, and I was forced to look only at him. I silently complained to myself, he's nothing like a henpecked husband, I'm the one who seems to be under strict spousal control. Louis pushed the phone aside and asked me solemnly, now that it's public, what are your thoughts? About our relationship. He said, from now on, you will inevitably be tied to me. Everyone who mentions you will refer to you as my wife, and everyone who mentions me will refer to me as your husband. So, I want to know your thoughts. I thought for a moment and finally understood his roundabout meaning. You want to know if I'll get a divorce? Louis replied in a muffled voice, I just want to hear your thoughts. I deliberately teased him, what if I say yes to divorce? Louis took a deep breath, then of course I respect your opinion. Do you really think so? I might pester you for a little while. Might? He sighed, it's a certainty. I was amused by him. Louis, you're really good at pretending. I'm just afraid you'll feel it's unfair. He looked at me. After all, I'm the one who likes you, and the public situation is also in my favor. I didn't believe a single punctuation mark of his. Tell me your truest thoughts. He pursed his lips and suddenly became silent. I nudged him, urging him on. Louis took a few deep breaths, his eyes like a rain-soaked puppy's, staring at me pitifully, his ears turning red as he managed to utter a few words. Wife, sleep with me. I was stunned. He suddenly got up and said, as if fleeing, I'm going to take a shower. Halfway through his escape, he remembered something and began to explain, stumbling over his words. I'm not implying anything, I'm really going to take a shower, the real kind, forget it. I blinked, still somewhat at a loss. Is this person playing hard to get? I called out to him, do you want a shower in my room? Louis spun around abruptly. The expression on his face was incredibly amusing for a moment. Nervous yet hopeful, lips pressed tightly together, yet his eyes and brows full of passion, his voice was tense. Can I? I leisurely walked past him, up to you. Louis's footsteps were wooden as he followed me back to the room. The moment the door closed, he pressed me against the door, his breath hot and suggestive in my ear, his voice low and hoarse. Wife, I've waited for this day for a long time.